she just seems to have a complete lack of self-awareness. I think that came across during the campaign, and I think that's ultimately one of the reasons that Trump was able to kind of romp home last November. But, you know, she has some self-truths and some self-reflection to do, and I don't think she's exactly there.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by Managing Editor Chris Irvine. Chris,
Hey.
We're now talking about potentially another indictment. FBI Director James Comey, the former FBI Director that is, and President Trump have a long and storied history, complicated history. What are we hearing?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a curious one, and it emerged that there's the possibility that they are preparing, the DOJ is preparing possible presentation to a grand jury for perjury charges. Now, we haven't had that confirmed ourselves, but it seems to be that that's the way it's going, and the reason that it's going is because the statute of limitations runs out in a couple of days' time as of this recording. I think September 30th. It stems back from a case from testimony that Comey gave to Congress several years ago, and there's always been a kind of suspicion that he might have perjured himself when he was there. But now we get to this stage where the clock seems to be running out, and Trump seems to want to get one over on his old rival, and this would appear to be the way that he's going about it.
So there's always this big debate over whether we're seeing the politicization of the justice system. And so Trump's team and the president himself would likely argue that this is an effort to combat that politicization, which James Comey, they would argue, was a big part of himself.
Yeah.
And a lot of Democrats would say, no, Comey is a political target, an enemy of the Trump administration.
Well, I think both things can be true, right? I think James Comey has a pretty long rap sheet when it comes to the politicization of the DOJ. Certainly, I think the Obama administration and the Biden administration weaponized it in various ways. Comey, you know, arguably ended up getting Trump elected, ironically, with his kind of interference in the election with the Hillary Clinton memo. But both sides seem to be kind of ratcheting that up. I wouldn't say that one side is completely clean when it comes to the politicization or weaponization of the DOJ. It's just kind of part of how politics plays out these days. The only, I guess, thing where you can maybe hand it to the Trump administration is that they're maybe a little bit less subtle about it. They're not exactly hiding it. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
So former Vice President Kamala Harris now has a new book out about the 2024 campaign. Additionally, she's now out promoting the book and with a series of media interviews. What's the reception been for that?
Well, first off, I find it really hard to believe that there's anyone who would actually want to read Harris's book, and I feel like I've read the whole book through extracts already. So who's then kind of going out to read it, buy it, or then go and hear her talk about it? But I think the takeaway largely seems to be that she's sort of throwing Biden under the bus, but not fully, and she's also seemingly trying to present herself as somebody who knew that things were not great, but if she said anything, then she would come across as self-serving. She's kind of trying to cover herself, but at the same time, it comes across as somebody who's kind of stuck in this quicksand, really.
Yeah, there's just this element of it where she is willing to say more than she's ever said before, and sort of second guess whether maybe she should have done more to push back on the idea that Biden should run for re-election in his 80s, but then stops short of actually saying that and said, well, I really couldn't have done that.
Oh, for sure. And until she kind of picks a side, she's going to be stuck in that no man's land. And I think it's going to really ultimately doom any future ambitions that she has. And I think another thing that's interesting from the book is she seems to be confirming this long-held suspicion that Democrats are just obsessed with identity politics. There's a notable part of the book where she talks about how she thought Pete Buttigieg would be a good running mate, but she's kind of disdainful of the American electorate, where she says, "Oh, I don't know if they could handle a woman who's a minority and then also a gay running mate." I mean.
Right.
So is it that they're obsessed with identity politics, but they also think the U.S. won't accept that? Or
Right.
she's saying quiet parts out loud that I just don't think are particularly helpful for this Democratic Party, which is still trying to get back on its feet and has just been kind of stuck in neutral for the last year, basically.
Yes, I mean, that part of the book got a lot of attention, and I thought it was funny when she did her interview with Rachel Maddow, and Maddow essentially quoted back to her what she'd written in the book.
Right.
And her reaction, Harris's reaction was sort of, no, it's not me, it's all of you.
Yeah, I'm not the problem. You're
Right.
the problem. And I don't know. She just seems to have a complete lack of self-awareness. I think that came across during the campaign, and I think that's ultimately one of the reasons that Trump was able to kind of romp home last November. But, you know, she has some self-truths and some self-reflection to do, and I don't think she's exactly there yet.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
You can read Chris and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.